passed Congress with only 23 out of 435 members of the House voting no, and passed the Senate with only 8 out of 100 senators voting no. Within the first 12 months, it was ratified in 30 states, and under our Constitution, they only needed 8 more. And supporting ERA were all those who had pretensions to political power, from left to right, from Ted Kennedy to George Wallace, and 3 presidents of the United States, Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, and Jimmy Carter. They locked ERA into their other demands: taxpayer funding of abortions and the entire gay rights agenda. We didn't have any internet, we didn't have fax machines, we only had the telephone and the Phyllis Schlafly report. We did not have one single big political name at our rally. But that rally nevertheless morphed our Stop ERA committee into the nucleus of the mighty pro-family movement that is so powerful today. I was standing in the gallery of the Illinois House when ABC Nightline put now President Eleanor Smeal in front of the cameras and said, "Miss Smeal, you said you had the votes. What happened?" And she replied, "There is something very powerful against us, and I certainly don't mean people."
Isn't that the greatest line? I love that. You can hear the song. It's a great listening pleasure. You can get the DVDs over on the table. There's some books there as well.
You are caught up in that wire and you're going to pull something off.
There we go. There's something very powerful working against us, and I certainly don't mean people. This is the woman who headed up the Equal Rights Amendment. This is, Eleanor Smeal. I debated Patricia Ireland. It's funny, I debated her with another president of now. I was on Hannity back when it was Hannity and Combs. And I remember feeling like, I just got off a plane, I'm really exhausted, I'm not up for this. And I had just given a speech about David. David didn't ever talk about how big Goliath was, by the way. If he was living during today, it would be on CNN constant, MSNBC. Did you ever look at the stats on Goliath? He's never lost a battle. Take a look at that spear, will you? That shield is just enormous, bigger than David himself. Look at, he would have been all Goliath all the time. Which is why we've got to stop filling our mind. Turn it off. Turn it off. We actually have been without a television for 6 years. It was tough for me as a news junkie. I started shaking, but it was one of the best decisions we made, because you can't fill your mind with the constant bad news. You got to feed on God. What did David do? He looked and he said, "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that dare defy the armies of the living God?" And my communication director walked in my office and I'm like, "Oh man, I got to debate Patricia Ireland too." And he said, "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that dare defy the armies of the living God?" And I went, yeah, I can take her on, because my God is bigger. It's who is your God? They're telling kids in school, you want to have self-esteem? You want to have self-esteem? No, I want to have God-esteem. I want to know who is in me. The God the risen Lord who conquered sin, death, and the grave. I mean, this is who we serve. And so people say to me, you're so creative. How do you get so creative? I ask the Creator what to do. And I look and I see the chessboard of where we are right now. The homosexual movement, they've just so-called redefined marriage. They've not redefined marriage, but they've corrupted it now at this point. They're sending clerks to jail. They're bankrupting businessmen. We had the Kleins who were in the movie who lost their cake shop, over $100,000 fine. They were lobbying here in Indiana. Unfortunately, it didn't pay off, because people do not have courage. There is the fear of man that seeps in, the fear of man, which also comes through advisors. Well, I'm surely not going to do that. You're going to be called a bigot and hateful, and you're going to have trouble in re-election. I'm sure you can never run for president if you don't do. This is what they tell them. And by the way, I used to be a spokesperson for John Kasich, and I see his advisors right now. A friend of mine says what I've seen is when one of his closest political advisors was working on the campaign. We saw his car. This says it all. It was pulling away, and it had that fake Darwin, you know, the Christian fish. It had the Darwin fish with the feet on it, like, you know, somehow. This is just such a big leap of faith, really. I mean, we are told in fairy tales that a frog becomes a prince, but that's actually what they teach in science class, that a frog becomes a prince. It's just given enough time and enough evolution and all of these things, but these are the people who are advising these guys. So if you get into office and you find yourself, you have got to have people who will tell you the unvarnished truth. Just say, what in the world do you think you're doing here? What in the world? You've got to have someone who will speak truth to you and not be surrounded by yes men. That is the flaw, the fatal flaw, not only of politicians that I have seen over the years, but also of pastors. They'll surround yourself with yes men. All right, so we pray to God and we say, hey, God, yeah, we're getting our clocks clean, but here's what I tell them. If the enemy can do this in one generation, if they can take us in America, where 1972, babies were protected all over this country, where they then in one fell swoop use the court against us and say, well, now we're going to kill kids at any time for any reason, and now 1.5 million are dying. They're going to be brutally executed, innocent Americans executed for the next 43 years. If they can take the issue of sodomy, which was illegal in every state, we're now to the place that if you don't agree with it, we'll send you to jail. We will close your business down. They are now threatening the governor of North Dakota, and they are telling him, unless you bow to the homosexual agenda on this bathroom bill. Really? This whole thing, that all the boycotts of PayPal, which opening up a center in, I think it's Malaysia, that are persecuting, they actually beat and imprison homosexuals. They can open up their center there, that's fine, but we're going to boycott North Carolina. It's the definition of hypocrisy. It's Bruce Springsteen, it's the Blue Men Group, it's the Deutsche Bank, it's all of these people that are descending against North Carolina, and now the Department of Justice is telling the governor that unless you back away, unless you change this, we're going to take you to court. And we're going to get you on so-called discrimination. We're going to take hundreds of millions of education, federal dollars away from you and the University of North Carolina. They're giving them to the end of business day on Monday. We need to pray for the governor of North Carolina. But we need to act. Dan, one of the things is I, wherever you are, as I'm listening to the confrontational politics, I'm like, check, that's right, that's what's going on. And there is an opportunity. I'm just going to tell you, looking at the chessboard, if you've ever played the game of Risk, you played chess, you can see how things are lining up. I believe this came from God. That what we're seeing now is what the enemy always overplays their hand. And they do generally take one step back, and we all say, well, that's good, let's go back to doing their lives. Well, here's what I believe. Right now we have a unique opportunity to advance the cause of freedom, and it's called Target. Target, not only, as we saw the American Family Association, in all of their years of existence, have never seen a more successful petition drive. In a matter of days, they had over 1 million, 1 point now, I think they're up to 1.2, 1.3 million names to say that they will, in fact, boycott Target. And Target, and when you watch the movie, there's a thing called a freedom. We're asking people to have freedom parties, and I've got a freedom card and a freedom kit, and you can see it all in the film. And one of the 5 companies in the world that I decided it needs to be boycotted the most back then in the movie is Target. They've actually sanitized their children's section. That we just don't want to be gender specific, and so there's no more pink and blue, and there's no more gender specific toys in Target. Well, guess what? We don't have to shop there because Johnny wants a truck and Susie wants a doll, and we'll go somewhere else. All right, that's enough. But then they say now we're going to open up the bathrooms to any man, anytime. That means we have just advertised to the 750,000 registered sex offenders, come on in. And they've already got all these cases in Target where they've molested, they've accosted, they've attempted rape, attempted kidnapping. They've actually had the phones already in the restrooms. They've actually had live streaming on a phone, live streaming on the web of what happens in the restroom. They found that already. What happens more? You're basically inviting all the world of perversion to come in and accost you and your daughters, your wives, your daughters, your children. So I believe we need a day that we've called it's a day to target Target. And it's a day that happens to be 4 days before their shareholders meetings. It turns out, I looked and said, the shareholders meet on June the 8th. 4 days before that, the Saturday before that, is a day we can show up at Target with signs that say, "Don't target our daughters." And so before I left here yesterday, I just threw this thing together and said, I want to do a Don't Target Our Daughters Day. And I want to make it so people can, so that they can send a message to Target. All right, so what I did is I put this little button on my website. My site, by the way, is F, like faith, the number 2, the letter A.org, F2A.org, or faith2action.org. And in approximately 30 seconds, you can hit this button, and you can send a message to Target. And the subject line, you can change the subject line, you can change the letter, whatever you want to say, but it says, "You just lost another customer." And you can send this email, and we fixed it so that when you send your one email, it goes to more than 100 Target officials. Their board of directors, their key executives, their management. I threw in the guy from Australia because I just found his name. What the heck? Let's get an international buzz about this. I just found out, I got a text just a few minutes ago. As of yesterday, 12,705 emails to Target executives have already been sent. And these are people that aren't used to getting this. They're not used to getting this kind of thing. And so you click the button, and it's as easy as entering in your name and your email. Boom, it's done. 100 people are getting it more. All right, so you've got this going on. They get their emails, and then 4 days before their shareholders meetings, we're going to have it so now on the website you can sign up and say, well, I'm in Indianapolis, I'm in Evansville, I'm in Wabash, I'm in wherever, and you can say, I'd like to target near me. And so if you sign up and say, I'll host a protest, then you just sign up. And then others that come in from your area, I'll connect them to you so that you can have more people who can come. And if we get this, and we take pictures and we feed them back. I just had a picture of a man. People say to me, what can you do? I told Monica back when she was fighting the battle, I said, we have an ugly man with 5 o'clock shadow. Not that he's ugly as a man, but as a woman, ugh. So put on some lipstick and a dress and some pearls and say, see you at Target. Thanks for letting us in the ladies' room. See your daughter in the fitting room. I've got my camera phone. Whatever we want to do, What do we say about making fun of our? I think this is the opportunity. By the way, they've already lost. In fact, I've got it written in here. You can find out the latest of where they are. I did it in a radio commentary. I'm going to see the exact amount so you can see it. I've got some sign ideas. Their stock dropped nearly 6%. It's cost them now more than $2.5 billion with a B dollars. That rocks. That's like their last 2 years profit margin. That's the last 2 years. Okay, so here's what we do. Usually we say, well, we've made our point, we signed our petition, we'll move on. No, this is the moment we move forward. And one of two things happens, but we win either way. One of two things. They either lose a bunch more, we close them down, or they back down. One of those two things. And if they're a shareholder, they're not used to getting these emails, they're getting just lost another one, just lost another customer, and they're coming in like rampant. You can put any emails, you've got 4 emails, put them all in, do 4 different times. Boom, 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 boom. Whoa. And they're like, what's going on? We gotta do something, we gotta do something. Maybe they're gonna have to say, we are going to back away from this agenda that threatens girls, that threatens women, that threatens our customer base, that used to be our customer base, or we're going to close doors. One of the two things. I believe that this is our moment. And if I were to say there's a strategic thing that we can do to advance the cause of freedom, in my opinion, that's it. I'm looking for people who are willing to lead the charge here in Indiana. By the way, Doug, I'm wondering, I hear you make buttons. Can you make me a Don't Target Our Daughters button? I'll get the design for you and let people order it and they can wear it. And what's great, this is the beautiful thing, is if we advance this in Target, no matter what happens with Target, that by doing this, we help the people of North Carolina. We help those who are fighting these ordinances, these SOGI things that are going on all over the cities, the counties, all the schools that are facing this. If they say, look what happened, and then we can say, who should we target next? That'd be fun. I think it's going to be fun. And so I just believe this, that God is who he says he is. He's everything he claims to be. Amen. He works through ordinary people, as long as we have clean hands and a pure heart. And if you are disappointed and if you have faced defeat, it means the story is not over yet. I told my husband, I said, you know, I used to feel like David. I'd win all these charges, I'd go and we'd get these bills and I'd be signed, I was a cool kid, all these things. And now we're trying to end abortion and I feel a little like Saul, like God lifted his hand for me. What's going on? And he said, well, when you're doing the impossible, it takes a little longer. We have to have that same kind of persistence that the enemy had. In fact, I was at a meeting when I was running for office, and God bless the Boyer family. Amy actually started making that long drive. And they came and they were there, and there was a high right to life speaking against me. And saying, well, you know, we better not try. Basically, we better not try because we might fail. And she says, I've seen what the left has done. They don't say, oh, we better not try because we might fail. When they started their marriage battle, they lost, it's in the movie, 36 out of 36 states. 36 out of 36. Articles are, I closed in on it on the film. I'm like, yeah, look at CNN called it the most losing battle. They lost over and over and over and over again. And they just kept going. And the court has now corrupted marriage and taken away our freedoms. But you know what? We don't say, as John Kay said, well, it's the settled law of the land. It's no more settled than Roe versus Wade. No more settled than Dred Scott, than Plessy versus Ferguson. This is not settled law. The court, if we believe that the court, then we don't have a democracy. We don't have America. We've got 9 people wearing black robes that run everything, and we bow to them? Let me tell you something, you don't have to bow to them. One of the other projects, as soon as we get through this whole Scalia thing, and by the way, one thing that I think Trump could do to help everybody is promise to put Ted Cruz on the Supreme Court. I might consider voting for him. That would be nice. But what I believe is we can actually impeach the judges. In the movie, I had a thing called Restrain the Judges, and we delivered 400,000 restraining orders on the steps of the Supreme Court the day before the oral arguments, but they weren't restrained, sadly. So you know what? Why do we always just say, well, I guess we lose, I guess we just better go and forget our freedom and change the boundary line on our shrinking piece of real estate? No, why don't we do use the tools and weapons that are available to us? Impeachment. Do you know that you can impeach a Supreme Court judge with a simple majority of a Republican-controlled House? A simple majority of a Republican-controlled House. Now, to convict and remove him, it takes 2/3 of the Senate. That's a higher bar. But just to impeach, just think what happens if you just have a committee that brings about articles of impeachment. I'm just going to tell you, Tom DeLay is a friend of mine. He, former majority leader of the House, he said that whenever they talked about reining in the Supreme Court or federal courts, because that's when the Supreme Court justices would call them and want to go to lunch. The only time. When their power was being threatened. Well, you know what? We can impeach them. And we can use the tools. You saw what happened to Phyllis Schlafly. She didn't have Fox News. There was no Rush Limbaugh. There was no fax machine. There was no internet. We have all of this for free. And I'm going to make that little meme, and I'm going to turn to my friend Amy to put this all over the place. And by the way, I'm just going to tell you this because I'm free and I got 1 minute left. Instead of Facebook, we don't have to take this agenda. By the way, just being on there, they're using it against you. You know that, right? And they're selectively blocking your messages. They're blocking messages that are pro-Israel. I can prove it. Pro-Israel, pro-life, and pro-marriage. And I'm putting together a thing. We have actually reserved the domain. We have the beta tester up. It's called Freedom Book. freedombook.com. For the truth to set you free, we must be free to speak the truth. And so Freedom Book will be the alternative to Facebook, God willing, and we're building to make it better. Right now, it's just the prototype, but we're moving toward that direction. But we can use the internet for free, at least for right now, and we can get the word out, and we can take back ground. And we're seeing heartbeat bills happen all over the country. By the way, they may say, well, the court said no. By the way, and I remember I felt like such a failure. I was like a complete failure. I was just ready to give it up. And we introduced the bill a second time, instead of now it's been a third time in Ohio. And I got a call from Jim Bob Duggar. He, you know, got 19 kids and counting. Pray for them. They're under assault. But he said, I just wanted to let you know that there's a lot of babies in the state of Arkansas that will be very grateful for the work you guys did, because we just passed the nation's first heartbeat law. And then I was in the state of Kansas, and I was lobbying for the heartbeat bill in the state of Kansas. And We testified in the committee, we're meeting with the legislators, and I'm saying, we need to pass this. Why not Kansas do this? Ohio didn't do it, you do it. And they said, well, only one state legislature. It's only one state that's done it. Only Arkansas has done it. We don't want to, there's only been one state. There should be more. My phone came in at just the right time. I love when this happens. Yeah, well, the governor of North Dakota just signed the nation's second heartbeat law. How about that? They still didn't do it yet, but that's all right. We just heard West Virginia is going to be introducing a heartbeat bill. Michigan, it's been in Alabama, Mississippi, it's all over. The guy in New York says, is it worth doing? We're not going to get very far in New York. I said, it's absolutely worth doing. When we brought in the youngest, we actually billed it as the youngest to ever testify. We brought in an unborn baby and a mobile ultrasound to the committee, and this little 9-week-old baby Haley, was there. We put the ultrasound, they put it up on the screen, and the pro aborts went crazy. You can't do this! These antics, these gimmicks, this circus! And I said, isn't it something that to defend your pro-abortion position, you have to run away from technology? That's a sad place to be. And the Senate says, well, we're not going to let you do your little dog and pony show in the Senate. No, we're more highbrow here. We just can't do that. And if they called me up, and I said, that's all right. I said, we're going to choose to thank God no matter what comes at us, because he can win with any hand. And I said, God, what can you do? All right, we can still show videos, right? If the Senate says you can still show videos, that's fine. So we showed the video in the Senate. This was one of the other moments where you just savor. This moment where they put the video of baby Haley. We played the testimony that baby Haley gave. And the woman from the pregnancy center who said this, Dushaham, she said, the House heard her heart, but the Senate sees her face. Because at just that right moment, a senator walked in carrying now born baby Haley, who was 9 weeks old born. It was the picture on the front of every metro section of the newspapers that the House heard her heart, the Senate saw her face, and they still refused to protect her. But we're going to keep pounding. By the way, when I get on my next video, pray for me. I'm having trouble getting this through. I've had trouble, but I'm not going to have trouble. God's going to show me what to say. I'm just going to say, look, they accuse me. The very reason I ran is because they blocked the most pro-life bill that's ever passed the House. It's going to protect 20,000 babies a year. They said I was the pro-abort. And yet I'm still fighting for the heartbeat bill, and my opponent, who ran as a pro-life champion, is still blocking it. We need to hold him accountable. Call him now and hold him accountable. He ran as a pro-life champion. Make sure he does what he promised he'd do. And so we're gonna get that word out. We're gonna be persistent. You know what? You just keep knocking. That's the persistence of the persistent widow. And you're right about closing. Where do you land the plane? There's 100,000 things yet to say. I will say this, that in the battle between darkness and light wins. That's the key. You don't have to be overwhelmed with darkness, that we're to shine. And that God says in Isaiah 60 that even the Gentiles and kings will come to the brightness of our shining, because when they say, how can you have hope in this darkness? How can you have any sense of promise and faith? Jesus said when he was concerned, he says, when I come back, am I going to find people working hard? No, he says, am I going to find faith? By the way, I said at the beginning, I don't know if I said at the beginning, I meant to say in the beginning, that faith and fear are really the same thing. Faith is anticipating something good from the God who is good. Fear is anticipating in the future something that's bad from the one who came to steal, kill, and destroy. So where is your faith placed? Everybody has faith. Do you have faith that everything's going to crash, everything's going to be terrible, it's the end of it? You know what? We need to come out of agreement with that. Yeah, I know the judgment. Yeah, I know it looks like the end of the world and all the rest. I know all of that. But I know this, that we're to occupy until he comes. And maybe, just maybe, if we follow the checklist in 2 Chronicles 7:14, if we humble ourselves, we pray. We all do that, it seems. We all agree to that. But we do the part that most people forget. Turn from our wicked ways. That's where we seek God's face, we turn from our wicked ways, then he's going to hear from heaven. He's going to forgive our sin and heal our land. And I want to say this one thing in final passing is when the story, that's what history is, it's his story. We're going to line up in his story when history is written. And they write about what happened in the year 2016 and 2017. And they tell about what happens. At one point, if we rise up and God wakes up enough people, it's the remnant, whatever that number it is, if it's 10 for Sodom and Gomorrah, well, what is it for America? It's about 1,000 per city to be equivalent to that. If we do that, when they ask the question, where were you? Where were you when they were killing babies? Where were you when they took away our freedom from the land of the free? What I want to do is how great it's going to be if we trust in the God of the universe, if we do what he says, that we know our God, that we are strong, and we take action, we do great exploits, that we can answer those people who ask us, yeah, when they were killing babies, when they were attempting to take away our freedom, we were the ones who rose up, like Phyllis Schlafly, like Ronald Reagan, like our founders. We rose up and stood against it, and we won. We were victorious for the next generation to live in freedom so the gospel can move forward. Thank you very much. God bless you.